Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Stench of Truth. I feel it necessary to weigh in on the Trayvon Martin killing. And I think there are a lot of issues involved in this case which need to be explored. There are several issues, I believe, which have escaped the public notice, at least in the national media. One is this, that this particular case happened inside a gated community, which is part of a pattern of communities and groups of people deciding to, put themselves off and close themselves off from the wider community around them in an effort to secure some type of safety or protect them from the quote-unquote rabble. And oftentimes private security firms are used to police these units and or to serve as security guards. I am unclear right now whether this Zimmerman person who shot Trayvon Martin and killed him was actually in any formal capacity performing a function for the community itself. I have heard him being described as a self-appointed watch captain. And if that is in fact the case, then it just goes to show you that there is absolutely no professionalism within the functions of that particular position, but more importantly that the gated communities themselves may be employing people who might be emotionally unstable or have questionable backgrounds, or allow people to serve that function without doing any due diligence to see whether or not these people can function properly within that environment. So there are many ramifications to this. And of course, one of the major things that have been brought up in this case is the issue of race, which is certainly going to cause some dissension, especially now with the race for the presidency, because Zimmerman is Hispanic. Okay, he's not a white person. And of course Trayvon Martin was black. And here you have a person who presumably, was just going about his everyday business by walking down to a local store, getting some candy and a drink, and coming back to the place where he and his father were staying. Now, I'm not sure whether he actually lived there or that was the house of his father's girlfriend and they were just visiting. I'm not positive on that particular score. I've heard both of those things being said. Now, the thing that should jump out at you right away in this particular instance is the fact that under normal circumstances, if someone is shot by someone, even if they're shot by a police officer, the police officer himself is subjected to some kind of inquiry to determine the nature of the shooting itself. And it is not something that is done like in one day or overnight, or they make an immediate decision on this. Especially when, in this particular case, you have a civilian who may or may not have any kind of official capacity, and I might add, if he was even in an official capacity, under the rules of the neighborhood watch, he was violating those rules. And he violated the police directives to not follow the person. So at the very least, there should have been an in-depth investigation immediately, right off the bat, instead of just letting this person go. And that means he should have been tested for drugs or alcohol or anything else. And a background check done, which would have shown that he had some altercation with police in the past. Okay? But this was not done in this case. So, you have to understand that there's animosity between the races in this country, not only because of the past, which certainly is a major factor in all of this, but it is also manufactured and it is stoked by the very powers that be in order to drive division. Because if you have blacks do not trust whites, the working classes of each of those groups will not join together to oppose the powers that be. And in this particular case, if you have blacks who do not trust Latinos and vice versa, then those disenfranchised groups will never come together to fight the powers that be for economic rights and for the future of their communities and their families. And that's exactly the way the people in power want it to be. So I would hope, at the very least, in the coming weeks, whether we find that Zimmerman is a psychotic murderer, which he may very well be, or he may be a racist or whatever, or he may have been attacked and felt he had no other choice. We simply don't know. But they fucked this thing up from the very beginning. Okay? And chances are very good, that Trayvon Martin is dead because of some lack or some problem on the part of Zimmerman's response. Whether it was overzealousness, whether it was racist, motivated by some other thing, or simply, you know, being in the wrong place at the wrong time, or illogical thinking, whatever. The fact of the matter is, a young person is dead, probably uselessly, probably unwarranted, but we simply don't know, because this whole thing was fucked up from the very beginning. But as I was saying, hopefully, do not allow the types of divisions that the powers that be are attempting to foist upon the people of this country to drive everybody apart. To the Hispanic people, I say, do not rally simply around your Hispanic community member here, but seek out and embrace the black community there. And why don't both of you come together and demand justice? Because realize that it could very easily have been a Latino being shot by a white person, or a Latino being shot by a black person. Because both of your groups are typically disenfranchised. So I would hope that you would come together and join forces to try and get some resolution to the ongoing disenfranchising of both of your ethnic groups and both of your cultural groups. And realize that the powers that be use these types of tragedies to drive a wedge between those disenfranchised elements to prevent everybody from coming together, because it sows distrust. At the end of the day, we have a kid murdered or killed because of some motivating factor that's yet to be determined. And that is a terrible, terrible tragedy. But I hope that you can understand how this is being used and twisted, even now, to try and drive a wedge between disenfranchised people around the country, so that people will not trust other people. And instead of joining together, they will instead lock down into their respective camps and continue to be used and abused by the powers that be. Now, on one final note, I would like to comment, because I just can't understand why Geraldo Rivera is such a giant fucking douchebag. Because apparently his answer for why Trayvon Martin was killed was because he was wearing a hoodie. And apparently, a hoodie now is indicative that you are a gang member, carrying weapons, a murderer, a thief, a robbery artist, whatever, just passing between your jobs, hits, murders, whatever, or you're a drug dealer or whatever. This a hoodie is the reason why Trayvon Martin is dead. So beware everybody out there who ever wears a hoodie, because God forbid they might be chilly, or think that they might look nice in a hoodie, or think it's a good fashion statement, whatever your fucking reason for wearing a hoodie. I don't care if somebody's walking down the fucking street wearing a fucking Nazi uniform. That doesn't give you the right to fucking shoot him. What are you, fucking mentally ill, you stupid fuck? Geraldo Rivera, you need to shut your fucking stupid mouth. Why don't you go grab John Stossel, another fucking douchebag, and all the other douchebags on fucking Fox News? Why don't you all gather around in some real tiny cramped room somewhere and spout your fucking bullshit crap to each other until all of you fucking fall dead from the sheer insanity and lunatic shit that comes out of all of your fucking mouths? Now, don't think that I'm defending the supposed liberal media here, because they are just as guilty of their own propagandistic efforts as well. That's just a total different line you get from them. So, that's my take. Good day.